The Indian market may not give staggering returns going ahead as the economic reality of the country is not as buoyant as the investor sentiment, said Mahesh Nandurkar, India strategist at CLSA. In an interview with Sanam Merchandani, Nandurkar said there is potential for the policy rates to go down by another 75 to 100 basis points from here, and a larger quantum cut also cannot be ruled out. He also said he will go for property developers, cement, and EPC companies in mid-caps. Edited excerpts. Do you see more upside for the market going ahead after the sharp rally since March? The market has undergone some re-rating already. We have seen a change of sentiments among foreign investors. We have seen inflows picking up, and that has happened when FIIs are selling in other emerging markets. Also, there was the MSCI rebalancing event that happened. On a relative basis, India has definitely outperformed. We expect domestic investor sentiment also to improve, which should result in the falling trend in the domestic equity mutual fund inflows to reverse. I do expect some more potential for re-rating. The market is talking about 13,000 to 14,000 kind of target on the Nifty by year-end. Do you see enough triggers to go to that level? 13,000 is not too far away, it is just about 10%. That is definitely possible and likely in the next 12 months. But we also have to keep in mind the economic reality, which is not as buoyant as the investor sentiment is, because the economy is facing issues like the consumer slowdown. The auto sector has seen relatively weak set of numbers for the last 6 months. NBFC liquidity issues are still very much there, and we cannot rule out the possibility of more defaults. So, therefore, I don't expect a runaway market. The market may not necessarily give stupendous returns. One should expect 9 to 10% returns in the next 12 months. But I would say the possibility exists in stock picking and sector picking, and if you can get some of the themes right, then you can easily do better than 10%. Do you see more rate cuts by the RBI going ahead? Yes, we see the potential for the policy rates to go down by another 75 to 100 bits per second from here. A larger quantum also cannot be ruled out. This is based on our analysis that food inflation will remain low for a longer period, as farm productivity improvement is the key reason for the same and is sustainable. You mentioned that consumption is seeing a big slowdown. What could be the impact on the economy? We have probably come to a stage where we have extracted a lot out of the economy by way of consumption outgrowing the broader economy, and now the time has come for the cycle to reverse, and we need to see more growth in the investment-oriented sectors. The consumption trend should ideally be growing lower than the nominal GDP growth. So, there would still be growth, but I am saying just in terms of proportions, things would be slower on the consumption side, and that is what is getting reflected in some of the recent economic data points as well. What are the investment themes that you are looking at? We like corporate banks because both the NPL and the provisioning cycles have peaked out. NBFCs in general are still under stress, but some of the top-class NBFCs can still actually gain on a relative basis from the broader issues that we are seeing in the NBFC space. One can stick to some of the larger good-quality names in the NBFC space. Housing is one country call that we have. Property developers looks like a very interesting part of the market to be overweight on. As there is some element of stress within smaller developers, the larger listed ones are gaining market share. Even if the broader property market does not really revive, the listed companies in the space should still be doing much better because of the market share gains. Allied sectors, like cement, should do well. For the valuation perspective, even the infra EPC contractors also look like reasonable bets. The worst seems to be behind for the telecom sector as well. Housing may get some special attention in the budget. CLSA. We like some of the select state-owned companies in the oil sector, where the valuation is quite attractive. We are underweight on staples, consumer discretionary, including autos, metals, IT, and pharma. What are the key expectations from the union budget in July? The government is the same, so there should not ideally be too many changes in the budget. We may see some expansion of the existing medical insurance scheme, but that's not a new scheme. Also, we believe that the housing sector may get some special attention. Is the worst over for the auto sector? Within the auto sector the slowdown is very much visible, and the numbers are still quite bad, and I don't think we're going to get out of that anytime soon. The base effect will catch up in another 6 months or so. The pre-buying before the change of norms will also help the second half of FY20. But pre-buying is just like advancing of demand. This is like shifting demand from one time period to another. If there is some change on the GST side, possibly for two-wheelers, then there could be some near-term excitement, but I think that will just be that, a near-term excitement. What is your view on mid-caps? Over there also one needs to take sectoral bets. At the index level the mid-caps have corrected much more than the large caps, and I would say that the revival in the mid-cap valuation would also be the function of how quickly the domestic investor sentiment changes and we begin to see larger amount of inflows coming to the domestic equity mutual funds. For the mid-cap sector to re-rate, that part has to play out and MF flows should technically improve. But I will still keep my sectoral biases and go for property developers, cement, and EPC companies. Let's block ads. Why?